Hello, Kimball Creek partners and friends. Welcome to our new format podcast. We wanted to give a little update as we finish our Spring Rebalance. And we're coming to you in this new format because we think it might be a little more accessible.
Well, we have some clients that want to listen to the whole thing, and that's easier done in the car, right into a podcast. And some of you want the 2-minute version, and you can watch the video on our website.
And you can watch the short video that will
If you want to hear a more in-depth flavor for what we're thinking, that's the purpose of the podcast.
But this is always a busy time of year for a lot of reasons. I mean, obviously you have tax season. And so, we're talking to a lot of clients, thinking about what has happened in the last year. Are there things we could be doing proactively going forward when it comes to tax, making sure everybody has their documents? But then from our side, maybe a little more in the background, we do a deep dive.
Well, it's a big time of the year, right?
Yeah.
We just finished quarterly, or we're in the middle still of quarterly earnings. I mean, a lot happens typically in that first quarter. And so it's a great time for us to review all positions, make sure we're in the things that we feel good about for our clients, moving forward.
Yeah. And so, as we're sitting here today, it's, end of April, just coming into May, and it looks like at least the S&P 500 broad-based market index is going to have its first down month in the last 5 months. We've had 5 consecutive up months.
It's been pretty spectacular.
It's felt actually. Yeah.
And of course, we've had, we participated and had some really nice things work out. I'm sure our clients all feel good about the things that have been happening in the markets. Been a good tailwind.
It's been a good tailwind, but it is a somewhat abnormal tailwind. At least one commentator that I listened to, I didn't go back and check every month, but it was saying that this was the longest monthly winning streak since 2013. So, what that at least says, at the very least, is while this is wonderful, it's also somewhat unexpected and maybe not what we might call a norm. And I think that's a good way to phrase what we're looking at here in April of a down month, where the markets come down. And maybe, Dean, you've been through all of these. What's your feeling looking at markets down in April?
It all seems normal to me. I mean, markets go up and down, right? I mean, that's just what they do. And it's easy to forget when you have a 5-month run that, it's not a straight line.
Yeah.
And just for some context, let's think back to last fall. I mean, when we did our last rebalance, we did that. I mean, it was a big deal when the Fed paused officially, right? I mean, we were in the middle of all these rate hikes, trying to get inflation under control. And then all of a sudden, the Fed signals pretty unexpectedly that, we're going to pause for a while. And we're not, the market took it to say it's never going higher. And in fact, there was, we had the 10-year Treasury hit 5% as they were raising rates. And that's important because that 10-year Treasury is what's most closely tied to the mortgage rates and other investment products. So it was a big deal when that came out as a pause. And then I think the market kind of readjusted some of those values. Some of the things that we saw value in, mid caps, small caps, that have been absolutely crushed in past years, and still look pretty attractive, but they were really beat up, and they had kind of this breather and, hey, the world's not coming to an end. And so we saw some really nice price action, not just in the Magnificent Seven, but in a broader base market. And it felt pretty good to have the market kind of vindicate us in some way.
Yeah, I mean, we've said this a lot, but the focused success of a few companies has tried the patience of diversified investors. And to see the broad-based market rally was great. You mentioned that this rally really coincided with interest rates and what the Fed was doing, and that the 10-year Treasury hit 5% in late 2022, which was a big number. 2023, yeah, sorry, excuse me. In 2023, which was a big number from what we've seen in the last few years.
Absolutely.
And then in a very short period of time coming into 2024, that came down to 3.9%.
Dropped like a rock.
Yeah, like when it was like not only is the Fed, stopped raising rates, but it's going to cut and all interest rates are coming back down.
Everybody, there was a certain portion that it just said, oh, hey, the sun, it's always going to be sunny. There's never going to go down. There's not going to be any gaps on the way. Boom, let's go long and forget about it. That's probably what we're seeing here. is more just as people are adjusting to the thought that, hey, there is still some inflation out there, which, by the way, in a large part due to the fact that companies are still doing pretty well and people are spending.
Yeah.
And so there is good news there. Unemployment is relatively very low. Consumers are spending money still. They're active. So these are good things, but that still has some pressure on prices. And the Fed's not completely comfortable with where we're at, and I think that's why they've paused. And probably, and for us, going to be higher for longer, if you will.
Yeah, we're definitely in that higher for longer camp. We'll talk about that. And maybe we jump into that kind of the core themes that we're addressing with this latest portfolio rebalance. So we talk about higher for longer. What does that mean for the average person's portfolio? Higher for longer, interest rates, even if they don't come down or go up, even if they just stay where they are.
Sure.
And for an extended period of time.
So the good news is there's a lot of positives for investors. If we've got 5% T-bills and money markets, that's awesome. When we say longer, I don't know that we're expecting it to be this long for years, but we're probably talking about no rate cut until the fall at the earliest. And so you probably get some relief. Your money markets are good. We're very active and diligent in trying to put all cash to work. Right? I mean, you know this. We get clients that have varying needs of liquidity. Some of our clients need monthly income. And so it's hard to keep that invested in things that are volatile. So you want to have that in a safe place. Well, in past years, we earned nothing on that. And so now, just by managing that, we can still get a pretty healthy return on cash. I mean, we're getting real rates of return on cash. That just doesn't happen.
And by cash, you mean like short-term investment.
Short-term. I mean, money markets, the return on a money market account is beating inflation. That's unheard of. And frankly, isn't going to stay there forever. I don't believe. I mean, I think to think, oh, I'm just going to stay in cash. Well, that's a nice thought. And it's good to be diligent. And that where we need liquidity, we want that. But it's also a short-term investment. It's the difference between short-term and long-term. So one of our themes to take advantage of that was last fall we talked about extending duration, and so we've done that again using those same funds. And just for those of you who aren't familiar with that term duration, it's a bond term. But it means loosely we're extending the maturities of some of our fixed income, taking advantage of the 10-year Treasury now back up in that 4.6, 4.7 range.
I remember, in the fall, we really started talking about this in spring of last year, a year ago. Yeah. We got more aggressive adding funds in last fall, and we thought, that we'd have time to continue to add to these funds. And then again, as we said in January, rates had fallen so much, and we kind of thought, well, that was great that we did that because those bonds funds did really well during that period, but we wish we had done more. And now, the market's given us a chance maybe to continue to do that. And that's what we did in this, is continue to trim some places and add, in some of these interest-bearing investments that we think are.
I think this is just a classic opportunity for people to understand why we rebalance. Markets do go up and down, and we wish we had a crystal ball. If we could call it everything perfectly, I've done this a long time, and you do kind of get a sense, and that's not always right, but rebalancing is just a very disciplined way. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead too much, but, we recently took a little bit out. We had a mid-cap position, so these are mid-sized companies that are publicly traded, and we had an investment in those, and, they just took off.
Yeah, 40, 50%.
We added that new position in, and it took off. And, once in a while, it just works out. Well, it's now grown because it's grown so much that it's now an overweighted. Not just was it an overweight that we put on last fall, but now it's really overweighted. And so in our rebalance, we're trimming a little of that position. So that and reallocating to maybe some others that didn't move as much. And I think that's just good investment management. That's prudent. It's not a guarantee of win. The definition of being diversified means we're going to have some that underperform, but it also means we're not putting everything on red number 7 and saying, "Oh, I'm gonna go all in on this Mag 7." Nothing wrong with those companies. We have exposure there. But if you listen to professional, successful investors, you hear this over and over. We took a little profit. We trimmed a position. They're not typically all in or all out. They're trimming, adding, overweighting. And that's an approach that we like and feel comfortable with. And so that's what we did this time. There was an opportunity to trim in some areas. And it was just let the market take what the market gives us. And
that process, that we started in spring of last year, and then we come around to this time and we look, and we still like these growth positions. But there was a number of them that we trimmed so that we could take advantage of these other positions that we like and take some of that money off the table.
Yes.
And I think that's been good, and we're hopeful that that'll grow the way that we're anticipating.
You know what? One of them will.
One of them will.
Good stuff.
And the one other theme that we wanted to address was just manager selection. We've gone over before, individually with clients. I think we put out some newsletters that our investment process. We really try and be data driven, and a lot of what we do, we screen, the thousands and thousands of investments that are out there. We screen them all for which we can get data, and we try and come up with a toolbox of which ones we think are really good. And when we want to make an allocation to a certain sector, we can choose, is this a place where we think low-cost ETFs are the most efficient way to do it? Or is there a different solution in that particular sector? And then we monitor that. Mm-hmm. And some of the investments, so like in our large cap value this time around, we took a position starting a few years ago. We've held this position, and it's done fine. It's kept pace, but we saw that there were other opportunities in different spots.
It seemed to lag a little bit compared to peers and others. Again, high quality investment. It's to make it through our screening process, you have to have done pretty well. Mm-hmm. But as the commercial says, past performance is no guarantee of future outcomes, right? And so we're constantly looking at where do we feel comfortable having our money positioned. And this just happened to be one that was okay, but okay is not really what we're going for. Mm-hmm. We really want top of class. And so we did make that shift. It may help offset, for some people, may help offset some of the gains we had to take in some of the others as we trim some of those positions because of this big run. And we'll continue to look at that as we get closer to year end, to help manage the tax liability.
Yeah. Appreciate you taking the time to listen today. I don't know if you had any kind of closing thoughts. We're always, excited to talk about these things. This is something that we talk together every day about. We hope that this kind of lets you in on some of the dialogue that we're having, at least every week, if not most days, that we're talking about this.
We definitely do it. And I guess what I'd say, for those who are listening, congratulations, you're coming up on 4 years with Kimball Partners, and if our clients haven't had a chance to interact with Brock, and he's doing some just incredible work with our financial planning, cash flow analysis. He does some really awesome work there. In addition to tons and tons of data for our investment process and getting that, we've come a long ways in the last 4 years as we have really, I think, upped our game. It's great to see.
Oh, shucks, Dad, you're making me blush. Appreciate you listening today. If you have any questions about moves made in your specific portfolio, please reach out. We love talking about this. We love walking through and explaining our rationale and how we're aiming to help you reach your goals.
Everyone's an individual.
Everyone's an individual.
We don't have cookie cutter clients. We have awesome clients. They're all unique. We love you. Call us.
Thank you.